I think that's what I want to share. Can we all see my PowerPoint presentation? Okay, awesome. Let's present it in presenter mode. All right. So the way I kind of did today, not knowing who was going to be in session with me, or to what extent you're kind of familiar with both use of PowerPoint and then our accessibility standards that we now have to kind of meet, not kind of, that we do need to meet. I just started the way my presentation is going to go is it's going to walk you through like why do we need to be accessible and then what needs to go into our PowerPoints to be accessible and then some tips on how we can do that. And then I can also do some real-time modeling as well. So the first thing I want to point out to you is if you notice, I'm hoping you can see it on your screen, but I have subtitles going as I'm speaking. This is something that PowerPoint will do for you so that the moment you go into presenter mode over any sort of Zoom or, I mean, Google Meets, Teams, you can have it do subtitles for you. It's pretty awesome, I think. And so that's just a nice feature for any of your students who maybe for auditory reasons would like to be able to see the transcript going live. All right. Okay, so just a brief introduction because I do know that we're all in kind of varying spaces in the sense of why accessibility matters, why we're considering and trying to, make our canvases more accessible, all of our documents more accessible. Here's why. One, it's inclusive engagement, right? And so I'm in teacher ed. And a lot of what we do in teacher ed in modeling with our students and having our teacher candidates understand is universal design for learning. And that's why I have the image of the ramp, right? When we put ramps into buildings, it doesn't just help a student or help a person who's in a wheelchair. It helps people who have a bike with them. It helps a person pushing a stroller. It helps someone who maybe with knee problems struggle going up or down steps. So this idea of accessibility isn't just for our students with disabilities. It's really for everybody. And so it's this idea of inclusive engagement that even though maybe this semester I don't have a student who has any sort of auditory impairment, it's still really nice for me to provide transcripts. It's still really nice for me to have that closed captioned for all of my students because there might be a student out there who's just like, I like that. I prefer that. It works for me. And then it goes with kind of that second one, benefits beyond disability. So just it benefits anyone who has varying learning styles, right? We all learn differently, we all take in information differently. And so this is why it matters. It's not just that kiddo who has a disability. It's really for everybody. Uh, and then just looking at it again, more of that legal and ethical responsibility. So I put the inclusion first because I think that's the big piece. Obviously, we have the legal responsibility moving forward to make our courses more accessible. And then it also fosters just equity and inclusion. A student never has to feel out of place to ask for something if we're already providing it. And so, like, I learned this relatively early on in my career as a teacher. I had a student who was dyslexic and really struggled with any sort of scripty fonts. And this was like, back in the day when, because I'm, that age, when it was like, do everything you can with PowerPoint and look at all these cool things you can do with it and pictures and arrows and flashing things and animation. And my student was like, I cannot follow any of your presentations because I can't read them with my dyslexia. Oh, okay, good to know. Right. And so again, just that student had to step out of their comfort zone to let me know, where if we make everything accessible, again, students are just provided those things. All right. And you're like, that's great. We already knew this, Leona. Now tell us what we really want to know and how do we make our PowerPoints more accessible? Yeah, I know we use oh, Ryan, you just mentioned the CHILL acronym, but I also thought the SCULPT acronym was pretty cool when I came across it. So that's why I added this image, just another acronym to help us think about what we want to do whenever we're making our information accessible. So looking at structure, those heading styles and that, this includes PowerPoints, color and contrast, our use of images and including alternative text with those images, the way we include hyperlinks, which I know a lot of us who use slides, we're usually always or at least for me, I like to throw out resources to my students. So again, how we're hyperlinking those things, the language we're using, and not like a different language, but what kind of English. We want to make sure it's plain and simple, especially in presentations. And then table structure, which that I will not cover today because that gets into a whole nother set of, I think, complications that we can't cover in an hour. Okay. So starting off with content structure and just text. And please feel free to stop me, ask questions, like whatever you need. If you want to throw it in the chat instead, whatever is going to work for you. Don't feel like I have to just talk for an hour. Okay. You're like, yep. All right. So just like any of our actual documents, our PDFs, anything that's more text heavy, we want to make sure that we're providing a structure in our presentations and in our PowerPoints. And so recognizing that when we have structure in it and it's clear structure, it allows for easy logical flow, especially for assistive technologies that will be doing reading for students. And so the idea, the same way that we're going to use headings in our, in our Word documents, we're going to also make sure that we're using different headings and heading levels in our PowerPoints. Ideally, you really don't want multiple headings on a single slide because at that point, just use another slide. But just always making sure that the way we are putting together our slides and that structure is going to be important. So here's our best practices. One, use the layouts that PowerPoint already gives you. And one of the cool things with PowerPoint, and my subtitles are going to probably go away because I'm coming out of presentation mode. But for instance, if I wanted to modify this slide, I'm going to open this up. If I click on this little pane, it actually will give me other ideas and generators. So it takes this template and it says, hey, here are some other ways maybe you want to see this slide. And so PowerPoint has expanded the templates that they have. And then also within those individual templates, it's expanded what you can make each slide look like. So for those of you who maybe, I don't know if anyone uses Canva because Canva is like really pretty and you can do a lot with it. PowerPoint has those same abilities. It's just a matter of it's different on how you get there. I'll go back to present. No. I should have clicked to take me back where I was. Where's my slides? There we go. Okay. So again, using any of those layouts, we want to avoid creating our own text boxes. Because one of the things that happens when we start creating our own text boxes on a single slide is that an accessibility reader doesn't know where to go next because it's not an actual outlined format. And so just being careful of if we do need to use our own text boxes, there is a way to organize them that you have to go like it's more work on you. Can it be done? Yes. But then you have to go into the system and essentially tell PowerPoint that if a software was to be reading your slide aloud, what text box comes first, second, third, and fourth. So really at the end of the day, if you use what PowerPoint provides you, it automatically will tell a reader, here's the logical order you're following. Making sure that you're using slide titles, which I think for almost anyone who uses presentations, we tend to have slide titles. But one of the things that even for me that I do, or I have done, now I've started changing that, is that sometimes my titles for my slides would be the same. So let's say I had 3 slides on best practices. I would just have best practices for structured slides, 1, 2, and 3. The problem with that is that for, again, it's unclear then to the reader, again, especially those assisted technology readers, how it's different than the one that came before. So every slide should have a unique title. So even if you're going to have like a continuation of it, then you need to put, best practices for structured slides continued. And then this way it highlights the difference between the 2 slides. Content, it's highly recommended to use bullet points as best as possible and as much as possible, as long as it, of course, makes sense for your slides. I know sometimes, depending on what the information is, or if you're showing an image, bullet points, you have maybe one thing up there, a bullet point doesn't matter. But the more you can utilize some sort of bullet points, again, it's going to allow the reader to say, hey, this is the next point. As opposed to, if you're not using bullet points, sometimes the reader will continue reading it as a single sentence. Mm. Oh, good question, Joy. Oh, okay. So two things. Sherry, yes, this is for Google as well. So even if you're using Google Slides or if you're using Canva, or I don't know if anyone still uses Prezi anymore, that was all the rage years ago. And then, Jory, the title should be on the slide. Like how we add a title to the properties of a Word document. It's a good question. I guess my question would be, why wouldn't a slide be titled? I know for me, if I might have a slide not titled if I'm giving an example. So I maybe talked about something and then the next slide is an
Yeah,
example of
the
it.
continuation and just I really believe in not cluttering slides and this is something that almost none currently zero of my students need and to make the slides less readable for the literally everyone in my class. Like I'd rather not, but I'll do it if I have to.
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things I can look at as we come towards the end is I can actually put a slide in there without a title and see if it flags it in accessibility and if it provides us an option for how we can fix it without possibly cluttering the slides. Because I agree with you, Joy, cluttered slides kill me. I mean, even this slide, I'm like, this is kind of a lot for me. Because I think back to like my communications class and the idea that any bullet point shouldn't really be more than 6 to 8 words long. Because if you're going to be using a presentation, it's to remind you to what you're supposed to talk about, not actually be everything that you're talking about. So this idea of like when I have to sit in presentations and there's a paragraph on a slide, it kills me. I'm like, can we please fix this? All right. But that's a good question. So I'll try to figure that out. And then I already mentioned bullet points. And then again, trying not to just have what we call floating elements. So things that are again randomly put across your PowerPoint, which I feel like that comes up more in Canva. If you use Canva, you can kind of add these things all over the place. I guess it can be done in PowerPoint. Maybe I just don't use it in PowerPoint. But I always tend to follow their templates anyway and just kind of like to stick with it. All right. Color. Um, oh, okay. Thanks, Ryan. So the title and the property section of the file needs to be completed before you do it.
Yeah, as far as I know, a lot of my files in Word get flagged for that, so I need to go through like all my Word docs I upload to Canvas, and it's a number one, point deduction I get on UDoIt for not having that. So I was assuming that it also means that for PowerPoint as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I had to go through a lot of my Word documents. My slides aren't flagged in Canva because I use Google most of the time and I just add the links to my slides after my class. And so you do it doesn't flag it because it's just like it's a link. So as long as I have like session 9 slides instead of the long URL, I'm not flagged for any of my slides in Canva or in Canvas. No. Okay, let's talk about color contrast. The example I found online, but just really what it comes down to is making sure that the color, any colors we're using, especially background and in the front, that those color contrasts are easily visible. That you don't have a really light or, a light background with light font or a dark background with dark font, that it's really easy to be able to tell the difference between those colors. And what's interesting is I don't know, are any of you familiar with like it's for colorblind testing where it has the different dots and it's kind of one color in the background and then there's a number? So my husband, when he was much younger, was going to join the military until they gave him one of those. And his best friend was with him. And his best friend gave the number. And my husband's like, "You're joking. There's no number in there." And he's like, "Yes, there is." He's like, "No, there's not." Come to find out, my husband is slightly colorblind. So he's not totally colorblind. He can see the difference of some things, but he can't tell the difference between like a dark maroon and a forest green. To him, it's the same color and it's black. And so this really is something that it does impact, even for our students, again, who are not totally colorblind. Students who might not even have been flagged as colorblind, because my husband was 25 years old. So he went through, K-12, a huge chunk of college, and didn't know until the military's like, "Yeah, you have like 4 jobs you could possibly do." And he's like, "No, I'm good." So just recognizing that color contrast plays a part. And whenever you go into accessibility, it will tell you if your color contrast is an issue, whether it's in Canvas, PowerPoint, Word, all of them will tell you that color contrast. If you're using something that doesn't have an accessibility reader, it gives you the numbers. So 4.5 to 1 for any sort of normal text or anything you're using, or 3 to 1 for those larger text. Again, in PowerPoint, if you're using their pre-made templates, they're going to all come with the proper color contrast. Right. Now, this next one, I think, is probably what Sherry and Jory are for you, where you might be worried about, is not using color to convey information alone. So do either of you either change the color of your font or like highlight your font at times?
Well, I've learned not to highlight anymore, so I'm not doing that. But Cassandra said to bold it or italicize it. So uh, I've just been taking the color off, things that I wanted to highlight. I'm doing that instead.
So, Sherry, one of the things that you can do is, if you're like, "No, it makes sense," because I think about my visual learners. That highlighting helps my visual learners so much. You can create like your own title or your own heading, um, like what's the word, setting. So you can develop your own heading and you can call it, right, whatever, heading 17 or pink heading. And then you can still use the color with it. And so you highlight it and say, "This is a heading." And then you can add the highlight to it. For an accessibility reader, it'll still say, "Hey, this is heading, this is a heading." And it'll still be able to read through it, even though there's color with it. So, and I know you can do that in Word, in Google Docs. Um, I'm assuming you'd also be able to do it on PowerPoint because they're the same system, really.
It seemed to me like she said that it's fine to do it. The reader's not going to pick it up, but if I bold it or italicize it, then it's going to say strong. So that was enough too. So she said I could do that too. I've just been trying not, you're right. The visual learners, it is good. And I'm a visual learner, so that really helps me when I see things that kind of pop out, to notice. So Cassandra said, if I want to keep it, you could, but just bold it and italicize it so the reader says strong and it's more of
Yeah.
a focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, again, I get the point of like, Joy, not cluttering stuff. And then also, yeah, it's like, to what extent do we make something accessible for one person, but then inaccessible for somebody else? What's the what's the fine line? And that's a hard one to walk because I don't think we have it. Like we don't have it set down. All right. And then the one thing that this is something I haven't seen an adult do in a long time. But I just wanted to make sure we all know, please do not use images as a slide background. Like, I have students as a high school teacher forever, so I'd have students when they had to put together something for me or they were presenting to the class, like a flag as the background and then words over it. I'm like, no one can read that. I can't read that. So please don't use images as backgrounds. All right. And then I feel like we all know this. This is literally an inaccessible slide that I added for the point of this and to show why it's a problem. And then if you wanted to correct it, if you go to review and then your check accessibility, Actually, it's kind of interesting. Does it not flag this for me? I know I'm missing text on one. That was again by design. Huh. Oh, and look at that. You can inspect it in all sorts of different ways. That's interesting that it's not flagging this slide, but then all of a sudden on this way, well, it should have flagged this slide. This slide definitely, when I present it, is not in. Um, I don't want to start from beginning. Why isn't it's going to start me from the beginning again? You gotta love technology. Yeah, this should have been flagged. This is not accessible. And obviously we can all see why. You can barely read it. I can barely read it and I created it. So just making sure that color contrast is there. Right.
Can you go back again and show where what you clicked to do the review and then where the accessibility popped up? Or is that
Oh, yeah. So if I'm just at home, um, if this isn't popped up right there for you up on that tab, if you go to review and then check accessibility.
okay, okay.
Yep, good question. And then there's like different from the accessibility tab, I can add my alt text. Like, there's a lot you can do from this accessibility tab besides just checking, like having it run their system for it. Okay. All right, it is probably going to have me start from the beginning again. We're just going to go this way. Do we need the subtitles going? Or are we okay without the subtitles? Okay. I thought it was just a fun little thing. All right, so moving on is really readable fonts. And I know we've like this has come up with documents as well, which kills me because like I hate Arial. I hate that font. It like is a soreness to my eyes for some reason, just the way I don't know, to me the way it clumps together. Um, but I digress. Just making sure that we're using like good recommended fonts, that our fonts are legible, that they're not decorative. So that's why I love this picture of like all the decorative fonts that we probably should be avoiding. Just because it gets really hard for a person to read, for a screen reader to read, everybody. It's cute for, cards and whatever you might be doing, but not necessarily for presentations. Use tool to check see if background and foreground. Oh, that's a good question. Now I'm sharing. Yes. Yes, we can use this to decide if something's working. So if the foreground and background colors meet. Good question. Look at that. I'll add that to the resources at the end of this slide because I don't think I have that one up there. Okay. And then the last two things when it comes to readable font, making sure it's large enough font. They recommend actually that 18-point font is the smallest you should go. I still think 18-point font is kind of small. A lot of what I've come across just in the past before we were looking even at this law, just in like what are the best policies when you're presenting, I've usually seen, depending on the font you're using, 22 to 24-point font is better. And so just keeping in mind, big font, declutter it. You can always add more slides. The smaller the font makes it a problem. And then using consistent fonts throughout your slides. Again, just for decoding purposes. It's a lot easier for a student to figure out and read through something in the same font all the way through a text. Are we good so far? I feel like a lot of this is like review, and especially if you've gone to other stuff, even if it's on Word documents, it's all the same in almost every capacity. All right, so then moving into our multimedia in our slides. Again, this is something that's come up on our Canvas course shells, on any Word documents, PDF documents, whatever we're doing, making sure that our text have some sort of alternative text for it. It works the same way with PowerPoint. If it's a decorative picture, we can click decorative and don't have to do anything else with it. If it's not decorative, making sure that we're actually describing what the picture is, right? What it's of. If students need to take content from it, what is that content? And one of the things that I came across that I thought was interesting is to avoid phrases like image of or picture of. Like, there's a reason they're reading the alternative text. They know it's a picture. And so just getting right into what is it? Um, I don't think you're not gonna get pinged if you say image of. It's just really about best practice, not a requirement. And then for adding that alt text, if you have a slide, so I'm just going to go to this slide real quick. Like for this slide, once I click on it, I can click alt text, and here is literally where I will decide what I'm doing with this image. So I can either type in, here's what this picture is of, or I can mark it as decorative and be done with it. Yeah, so super simple. We're all good on alt text. Okay. All right. So here is, oh yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Um, Now sometimes you might want to add more descriptions than like a simple description. So would you put like the more detailed explanation in the notes section of the slide?
That's a good question. I would think if it's an image, it would all go with the image, right? In that alt text. Because I
Hmm.
don't think it limits you on how much you can add to alt text.
Okay.
Let's take a look. Because I know like this one I added. Did I add alt text? Or no, I just said it was decorative. They say they recommend 1 to 2 sentences,
Okay. Yeah.
but if it's okay, well, let me ask you this. And I think this is where it comes down to as to where you would add it. If you have an image that's for content purposes, right? Like the students need the image. Are you also providing information on other slides that would give similar or the same information?
Hmm. Yeah. I guess that's a good point. Like, how much does that image need to be further contextualized?
Right. So, like, I'm thinking of in the education world, we use a lot the cycle of like plan, teach, reflect, revamp. And then it's this cycle. I can give that image, but if I'm presenting that to my students for the first time of like, hey, this is how we live in the education world, I'm going to probably have slides with that information anyway, and then there's a visual someplace of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. Yeah, it depends on how much does that image need to be expanded upon. Uh-huh.
yeah. And I'm assuming there probably are cases when it needs to be, depending on the content area someone is in. Um, and then yeah, could you make a note that says that it's in there? But I would still think it would get explained at some point in time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, art classes. Ooh, art, some sort of art interpretation. They
Mm.
have more of a challenge with those describing the images. Yeah. All right. Now I'm thinking of like, what would I do if I was an artist? I was an art professor. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next thing is adding captions in any sort of multimedia. This is a really cool feature if you're unaware of it that PowerPoint has. You can actually caption any sort of video once you upload it to your slides. So obviously, PowerPoint supports any sort of other parties closed captioning. So if you upload a video from Panato that's already closed captioned, it will go ahead and keep that closed captioning. YouTube videos, like it supports all of it. But let's say you're uploading a video that does not have closed captions, you can actually add it. And so this is just a video it's an intro video of myself from one of my classes. When I click on the video, it takes me to my video panel. I've already added the captions, but you would click edit captions, generate captions. You can generate it with whatever language you want, which is also cool if you have any multilingual students in your class. To me, this works really well for my high school teachers who are navigating like brand new students. And then so it just takes a moment to um, generate the captions. And then why are we not? And then you can just click edit captions. Here's everything for you. So like this one, at the end of the day, 75%, 75 to 90. I'm not trying to do that. I want this to be 75%. Right. And so then I can just make my changes as I go through. And sometimes when I read my own closed captionings, I'm like, the way I sound, it makes it into a question when it's really not a question. Because I say right a lot, apparently. All right. But then that's a nice, easy way to still get those closed captionings because I was afraid that I was going to have to take a lot of videos and run them through Panotto and get closed captionings that way. And I was like, oh, for the love of all things good, I don't want to do that. PowerPoint will do it for me. There's also, I don't know if any of you have heard of Notebook LM. I've been able to get Notebook LM, which is an AI system, to generate closed captions and a transcript of a podcast. Because I use podcasts in some of my classes. And I was like, oh, I need transcripts for those now. Like, I don't even own the podcasts, but I've been able to like download the file, upload it to Notebook LM, and it'll generate a transcript for me. So pretty nice features as we're coming across these things.
I have a quick question on that.
Yeah.
So did you do the video first and then do the closed caption, or did you click that edit caption and then when you recorded, it did it for you? When did the
This video has been done for like 2 years, and I didn't have the closed captionings from Panopto because I had like 2 separate files. And so this literally, I uploaded it without any sort of captions and then had them generate captions for me. Yeah, so I didn't have to actually record myself. Now, if you are recording yourself in PowerPoint, I don't know if you're familiar that you can do that. Like you can have your slides going and record yourself. So you can record a lecture directly in PowerPoint and upload it to Canvas. It will do closed captionings for you while you're recording as well. All right. Any other questions on closed captioning right now? Okay. All right. So then this is the subtitles that I had going when I was in presentation mode. If you want to have subtitles going, if you think it's going to benefit any of your students, if you go to the slideshow, then here is the subtitles option. So you can say, right, I want them in English. You can add it. So my spoken language is English. I want my subtitles in English. And then you can say how you want them to appear on your slides. And then there's just some audio settings. You can also, I chose to always have them on. I'm trying to think of how I turn them off right now. I guess you can turn off, like you can say your audio. That's my device. Why can't I remember how to turn off my subtitles? I'll figure that out. All right, but again, that's just it's an interesting feature. And then they even have like rehearse with coach, so you can walk through it, making sure that it works. And then lastly that I have for you is use the accessibility checker. I know I've already mentioned where that's at, so it's in review and then check accessibility. And here it will tell you what you're missing. Why am I? That shouldn't be a problem because it's a video, not an image. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Holidays in a classroom. I hate that it plays the moment you click on it. Okay. All right. Any questions for me?
So when I run the 2 programs, the UDoIT and the Tidy Up, in Canvas, I have all my PowerPoints posted by each week, but I have like week 5 PowerPoint, and then it's hyperlinked. Neither of those programs then are catching my PowerPoints then, right?
Probably not. Not if you're uploading it as just a link. What it's checking is your link. Is your link
Okay,
titled?
okay. So, the only way to check that then would be to what you just showed. Go on each PowerPoint and do the accessibility and update it from there.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, Jory, yeah, I'm looking at the reading order and like for any decorative images, it's giving you the citation. I deleted all of those too, like stock image. I deleted all that because to me it's clutter. It's not so necessary. Now, if it was like an image of a graph that I got about data, I would of course add a real like the real citation for it. But I don't. Um, I just you can either uncheck them or you can just choose to delete the that text box that says like this is from free access web whatever. It's really up to you in the sense of what you want to do with those.
Do we get a percentage or is there any kind of like percentage with the PowerPoints like there is with the other one? It's just you go through it. Okay.
You just go through it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like this has come up like I asked this because I'm definitely a part of the union and I'm active in the union. So like I want to know the questions of what happens if a professor's not over that 80% threshold, right? And as of right now, like there is no university oversight committee on any of this. Like we're not oversight, we're support, right? So we're different. I'm not looking to go, all right, who's under 80% come May 1st? Like that's not any of our roles. Our roles is how do we help you for those who want help? So really at the end of the day, unless the university changes something, it's really about how much are do we want to, I don't want to say want to put into it, right? Like we should want our work to be more accessible. But also like in those questions of do I focus on accessibility for my visual learners at the cost of my auditory learners? Do I put my auditory learners above my visual learners? What if this semester, like I know I have more visual learners because I just kind of know my students. In that respect, like no one's coming to hunt you down to be like, your PowerPoint was not perfect with accessibility. You forgot alt text on these 7 decorative images, and no one's doing that. It's really just to try to help you help your students. Hopefully that helps some, especially when it comes to like PowerPoints, that we have no other way to really flag it besides checking through the accessibility checker. Or I guess if you're to upload the file of it, then you do it would check it a little bit more.
So our goal is above 80.
Yes. Our goal is above 80. Recommended is 90, anything above 90. And then this way it gives you some leeway if something new gets uploaded and happens to have some issues. Um, yes, yes, the law is everything. The law is everything. However, when you come from a legal perspective, it's also everything in good faith. So if we're trying to do it, are there going to be things we miss? It's a really good chance, yes. Does it mean I'm doing it out of malice? No. And so at the end of the day, if a student were to try to bring a lawsuit against a professor or an instructor because one thing was not accessible, no court is going to try that. Right. So yes, we want everything to be accessible, but there are cases when it won't be. Like for instance, I provide student work. The difficulty of trying to get student work accessible is a bit more of a challenge, especially like I'm more secondary, but I do have like my music students and my kinesiology students who are K-12. If they're in an elementary school setting, the elementary school student samples are far from accessible, just because it's meant for a small child. So it is more image based and it doesn't always work when it's a student sample that I'm providing to the rest of my students. what do I do with that? What do I do with if I'm pushing out a professional development and the PDF is image based, but it's not my PDF? Like, how do I fix that? By the time I send it through, even our own program, the professional development's going to be over by the time they can kick me back an accessible PDF. Do I not post that because it's not accessible? Right. And so those are just some of the things to consider. And that's why that 80, 90% threshold. Yes, we want everything. But at the same time, that's like saying, I'm a really safe driver. I never speed. I never go 26 in a 25. I can aim for that, but there's probably a good chance, even if I'm trying to sit at 25, I might go 26. All right. We can't put boldness in the alt text. What would it do with capitalization? Oh, good question. So, Jory, do you kind of mean if you want a student to recognize that there's something in the image that's of significant importance? And that would be why you would bold it or capitalize it?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the slides I used today for teaching word stress, and it's going to be a nightmare. Like the one of the easier things I thought until I thought about the capitalization question is these are scans from a book, so they're not text in the slides, but it's like, what would they do with this? You know, it's showing that the stress is on the second syllable of about. These words also have circles over them that are larger for primary stress and smaller for secondary stress. And I could write, I mean, I guess I could write about parentheses stressed on second syllable, like, but I was wondering if it already would recognize capitalization in some way.
I don't think it would, considering it doesn't in any of our other systems.
I also wonder what it's going to do with like, these are not real words. Like, I mean, it happens to be the case that CON is a word, but it's contain is the word. And so what's it going to do
Right.
with these words when you're writing philosophical, like philosophical?
And Joy, this is where I think that piece of like, yes, we want everything accessible, but there comes a point when something like that may be very difficult to create accessibly without significant help from somebody else. And that's even beyond me. Like that is
Okay.
not in my wheelhouse. Like,
Cassandra did say send things over and her students will figure it out, but it's like they're not linguists. They don't know what I'm trying to do. So it just
right.
happened to be it happened to be the first PowerPoint that I ran this checker on, and it's probably one of the more difficult ones, but I do have a lot of weird linguistics things. But Cassandra says that they'll tackle any task, her team.
Right. And
But
that's where I think I would try to use just, and I know that, and for like, if you're like, but I need this for next week, use what you have, do what you can on your own with the different resources or like what we can help you with in these sessions or in our, the cafe drop-ins now. And then worry about what our student assistants can do with it for your next time. Right. Because I can't imagine that that's going to be something easy for them to tackle, for them to have a quick turnaround.
Yeah, just a quick Google image search doesn't say that you can actually add bold to an alt text, so it may not be possible. But I guess the point of alt text is just to describe the image in a concise of way as possible. So perhaps that's something to carry over into the notes section of the slide instead of in alt.
Yeah. And if it's an image of a textbook, although it is content, I guess, Jory, do you ever do it where it's not an image of a textbook, or does the image of the textbook like that? It would be
I
not
do
impossible, but very difficult to regenerate what the textbook is doing.
I do it both ways, but in this case, like I said, I mean, we put images, that's one of the images. And so they've got capitals. They actually have two different levels of capitals, big capitals, little capitals. So there's all these ways that we indicate word stress or, you can visually explain these things. But that I talked to Cassandra about that, and it's kind of like that actually becomes not really readable to a person if you're listening to a screen reader and it's like, it's the word democratic and it is broken into 4 syllables and there is a D with a lowercase capital, small capital letters, and you just like read it out, write it out like a robot. Like I would be like technically doing what I'm being asked to do, but it honestly would kind of be a nightmare for the person whose screen reader is blathering this at them.
Right. It would probably
It's,
make no sense, even if it was
it
totally
wouldn't,
accessible.
yeah, it wouldn't be. The even worse example was
Like,
syntax trees, where it would just sound like it would almost be like someone reading binary code at you. And but again, she said, you know, to do our best.
right. And I think that's really what's being asked of us to do our best with it. Because I think of any sort of music instructor, how are their sheets of music going to be
Oh my gosh. Yes.
accessible, right? And so I think that's where it comes down to doing our best. You know, unfortunately, I've found in the world of education, laws get passed before support is offered, right? And like right now, yes, the university is offering support, but we're providing support through what we know, the different things that we're doing to learn how to be more accessible. But if someone came, like Jory, your examples, I'm like, I have no clue. No one has actually told me how to do that or how we can do it. Um, will eventually, as we get the trickle down effect of the law, will we start to get those supports? I believe we just might because people will start coming back going, we can't do that. Like, we don't have a system that would accurately give that to a screen reader and read it properly. I think we eventually will get there, but unfortunately, the law passed before we have some of those technologies. Uh, Sherry, are the sessions different? Yes. Our next session, like if you go to the website, it'll tell you what each session is for, kind of like what we're covering so that we're not overlapping things. I know some things overlap, just, but I know one is going to be completely on tables and how do you make your tables more accessible. And then we now have started, Cassandra and I both do the accessibility cafes. So I do the second and fourth Wednesday. She is the first and third Tuesday. And so those are nice if you have like a quick question and just want to pop in for a few minutes, as opposed to sitting for a whole hour through one of these where you're like, I know how to use the accessibility checker in PowerPoint. I don't need an hour of my one question. And they're also nice if it is just a short one or two questions as opposed to like a full sit down where it's an hour to an hour and a half with one of us.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump into
Yeah,
a
no
meeting
problem.
with the student teacher, but thank you. This was really helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Thanks for coming, Sherry. All right. Any other thoughts or comments, concerns? Emotional outbursts. I always give that one to my students. There are days, right?
I didn't even know about the checker inside PowerPoint, so that's useful to me. Everyone kind of is only talking about you do it, but I have literally nothing on Canvas. I thought they wanted us to be excited about our cloud drives and sharing, so everything for me is a link. So nothing gets run through you do it for me unless I were
Oh,
to upload it all for that purpose. So I'm going to be checking things within the documents themselves with this and
awesome.
Word and stuff.
I was gonna say, if you don't know, Word also has an accessibility checker.
Yeah, they all must, right? I mean, at
Yeah,
least if they
right.
don't, that feature's coming very soon on everything now.
Right. And I have found though that like Google, they don't really like slides and that I don't think they have an accessibility checker. So it's just kind of your own. I do have a funny feeling it's coming though.
I did mention to Cassandra that there was this really helpful PDF from A4A that said like what documents to check and in what ways, but the link to the checker for PowerPoint led to like a general website, Microsoft website about disabilities. So I wasn't sure where it was, but now I know it's right in there and easy to find.
Oh, awesome. Yay. Like I'm excited because I'm like, this is my first one. I like I know about it, but I don't really know what people need. So it's good to get that feedback.
Yeah, you should not apologize for maybe we already learned this. I mean, you don't know what we all learned. A lot of people are just getting started though, so.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ryan, you Ready to start taking over?
Yeah, I'll have my first session. I think it's the first week of December. So we'll see. I'll probably just use the chill acronym and go over those basic things.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do feel like some departments haven't, it is very new to them. My department, they've been pushing it out for the last at least year. Like use Ally back when we were Ally and not you do it.
Okay.
Not to say that people did do it, it's just that we at least heard about it.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for this.
Thank you so much for popping in.
Bye.
Cool. Well, thanks for letting me tag along and yeah,
Anytime.
picked up some more information. So I could start integrating this when I'm leading these things. So
Yeah, and I feel like kind of like some of the questions that came up today, there's going to be questions that then go, "Oh, I don't know that answer."
yeah, yeah, exactly. Every time one of these sessions come up, I'm like, oh, that's a new case. Like the thing with the alt text and
Yeah.
being able to bold. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, all right, let me make my list of questions to go try to answer now. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, Ryan.
Thanks.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.